Ohaneze Negemonte. No, na my African Village TV, your guide to the hidden treasures of Africa. Unumana, we have been discussing, exploring the reason behind the scattering of Igbo. And today, on a more precise note, I'd like us to look into the Igbos. Igbo, they were absorbed into so many communities in Nigeria. During my research, I stumbled on this channel, and one Naiwoka had done an amazing job traveling to this Isobo, Bora, and Itutu, all in Obubra local government area in Cross River State. In my last video, I touched on Ikwere people and so many others. So think about it. I'm so shocked to see that inside Cross River State, there are people who are Igbo, indigenous. Igbo, Fanasibo, Neme Omenanibo, and all that Eji Marandibo you can find within them. It's an amazing thing.
Now, I know medical Perimija, we medical Aji Festival. Aji Festival. And Aji Festival, one wine I buy a and I be there from 6th or end on the 16th of. Very well. Very well. But I'm jogging. Can you tell me Aji Festival? Aji, oh, menana. Okay. Oh, menana. Okay. I be there from 6th. Make it until Eguni energy teacher. Oh, wine I bought one can I, but not never can I buy. Okay. Okay. Very well.
And that reminds me, sometime 2 years ago, I was in Cross River State, and I realized that on every street of Calabar, it seemed like the Calabar people in my mind, Nawata Sosibo. I mean, in some part, not the entire Calabar or Cross River region. So, in today's video of another episode of my story, Alanafa is a powerful thing, Nanibo. We don't joke with names. And the word that is getting to my emotion here is the Equiano. He hailed from Ikuano. And this is a word that had been corrupted or suffered some series of omission until Welutena Equiano in Enezidiafa or the Gafa in the Spanish. Born in the modern-day Nigeria, Oluda was captured as a child and sold into slavery. He eventually bought his freedom and became a prominent abolitionist, a writer, and activist in London. Oluda's powerful autobiography depicting the horrors of the Middle Passage helped turn the tide of British public opinion against the transatlantic slave trade. But his legacy did not stop there.
We'll be back shortly.
Sun is shining bright, yeah. Fortuna in my hand. Joyful days and nights, yeah. Life is feeling great. Fortuna vibes, man. Feel the summer breeze. Dancing in the daylight underneath the tree.
In the 1790s, Oluda raised funds and helped coordinate the resettlement of nearly 1,200 black loyalists, freed slaves who had fought for the British during the American Revolutionary War. promised freedom and land, they had instead faced racial discrimination and hardship in Nova Scotia after the war. In other words, umunanya bondi solo the Britain, wenu so ndi America ya. Na mkwekwelo ha before that support they gave was na yenyehana and their own freedom. And you know, an Igbo man would do anything to have his freedom. And so, Oluda worked tirelessly to have this community of Black loyalists transported across the Atlantic once more to establish a new home in West Africa. And so in 1792, they landed in what is now Freetown. The pioneers faced many challenges establishing their settlement, which they called Province of Freedom. In other words, he came up with that name, Freetown. There were Yorubas in them, there were Ghanaians, there were some people from other African countries, but there were most Igbo people in the congregation that he relocated back to Freetown. And that is a major, like I said, scattering right here. And it hurt me even much more that some of our parents are not even aware of this. And as you know, no proper history is taught in our schools. And this kind of history had been documented with some version of corruption as well, yes. And to some extent, 80 to 95% of this history had been documented and embedded in the American curriculum. In other words, you cannot even tell the story of America, how America was founded and started, without the story of Africans or Ndibo precisely. And let's see why no one heard anything about Ndibo that was relocated to Freetown. What could be the cause of this? And so you know that slavery, not the Ifohu, they call it Ifohu or Oru, or in the modern day Igbo culture today, it is called Igbo boy. The way that this particular thing had been passed down till this day, it's not that you will be tortured. No, there are no such things as torturing anyone during the Igbo boy phase of anybody's life. And so this particular type of slavery that ensued here was totally different from what we had. So make no mistakes about it. I've seen a lot of publications that suggest that we started the slavery within ourselves. That's a blatant lie. And so, you know that slavery or war can leave scars that run deeper than flesh wounds. For survivors of slavery, the trauma lingers. And you know the type of slavery that they suffered? Some of them died on their way. Some of them couldn't have fresh air. Some of them were stuck like sardine in a particular room without a means of ventilation. Some of them were sick and they died. Some of them drowned. The Kumeku story, which will feature soon. Some of them went through some heinous and inhuman kind of treatment in the process of this slavery. And so because the trauma lingers, it is possible that these traumas could have seeped into their sense of identity. And so fear becomes a constant companion, whispering doubts and sowing seeds of self-loathing. And so in desperation, some seek solace in assimilation, allowing themselves to be absorbed into new communities, adopting unfamiliar tongues. You know, this is a survival mechanism, a way to shed the skin of their former selves and start anew, free from the baggage of their past or their identity. Let's move on to the discovery of some of our brothers who stood even in the leadership position. And so, as you all would have heard or known, the first president of Sierra Leone was an Igbo, by the name Christopher Okoro Cole. Before then, Okoro served as the Governor General of Sierra Leone. His ascendancy into the presidential seat took place on April of 1971. And in April of 1992, one Nyozo by the name of Captain Yaya Kano became military head of state of Sierra Leone. Let's go back a little bit. In 1857, an ex-slave of Igbo extraction, Simon Jonas, wrote the first manuscript written in Igbo language. God bless his beautiful soul. And this publication was titled Isoama Igbo Premier. Now, in the setting of how this was shown or written, you see the Igbo in IBO, Malokwano Igbo. And at some point, the word had been corrupted to, be presented as EBEO. And so we make videos like this for our children and children to have something to hold on to have something to learn about us. So this was done in Sierra Leone for emancipated slaves from Igbo land in Freetown. So the Igbo dialect spoken in Sierra Leone is called Isoama or Isuama Igbo. And so these particular Igbos in this particular area of Sierra Leone are a numerous and thriving people at Sierra Leone, and many of them have acquired wealth and influence. You know now, you know us. Wherever we are, it's not to brag. We make it home. That is one thing with our identity. So the Igbo language spoken in this Isuama of Sierra Leone had been corrupted in a way, but when you hear certain words, you can still tell that this is an Igbo word. They still bear Igbo names. And I explained to us a moment ago how war or slavery, the traumas that emanate from that experience can instill fear into people to a point that they want to completely they want to be absorbed into a community, even adopt some of their languages, mix it up with theirs, or totally give up theirs. But trust me, there are still the stubborn ones who will continue to teach their children and their children. Manacho Miji, this medium, talk to the souls of every Igbo listening to me right now. Don't only encourage your children to speak Igbo, but create time where you can tell tales by moonlight and at Moyifo. Find time to tell stories. Find time, even if you don't want to tell the tales by moonlight, find times to share the history, the little that you know. Link them up to this place.